Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. The UIAAA would not be able to broadcast this podcast without the support of our business partners. Thank you to all of the gold and silver business partners of the UIAAA, BSN Sports, and our contact, Jeremy Macy. Final Forms, AMP, with contacts Julie Renner and Clay Burnett. Granite Canyon Wealth and our contact, Megan Palazzo. Jostens and our contact, Molly Shaheen. NCSA, Next College Student Athlete, and our contact, Paul Putnam. VNN Varsity News Network and our contact, Jason Jones. Thanks again to all of the gold and silver UIAAA business partners.
Welcome to the latest edition of the UIAAA Connection podcast. Today's special guest is Ronald Dolphin, CAA Athletic Administrator of Grand County High School, also the Assistant Executive Director of the UIAAA. Welcome, Ron. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for allowing me to be here, Hutch. This is exciting. I've never done this before, so I'm eager to participate.
Well, it's something that is new, and we thought it would be great for at least our Utah listeners, and we might even get some people nationally to tune in and share some ideas. So let's start off. We're friends. We go way back, so I know you're a Moab kid. But for those of us in Utah that may not know, talk about where you grew up, where you went to high school, where you went to college, your involvement in youth sports, all that type of thing.
Well, I was actually born in Monticello, Utah. Most people don't know that because I'm not ashamed by it, but I was only a Monticelloan for 2 weeks, and then my family moved to Moab. My mom got a full-time teaching job up here in Moab, and my dad bought the dry cleaning business, so I actually moved to Moab when I was 2 weeks old. So I consider myself born and raised in Moab, but not really born. But the early years was, mischievous things that boys do. But I think the one thing that I always remember most was when I was in kindergarten, me and my best friend used to slough school every day as kindergartners. We'd
I like it.
Go to my house or his house for cartoons and my mom was a school teacher, so that didn't sit well. And my best friend, Jared, his dad was the superintendent. And after about a week of sloughing school, we were brought into the superintendent's office at the district office. And boy, my mom and Bill Metter, they laid it on thick to the point where I never missed another day of school. Even on senior slough day, I was in school. I never cut school, and I've never cheated my job sloughing or dismissing it ever since kindergarten. That had a real profound impact on me. So I guess you got to reach them young,
So was I'm familiar with Moab. Was it the elementary school in the same place that it is now? The same
HMK. It's been rebuilt, but it's in the same spot. HMK, just right across from Swanee Park, just off a block off Main Street. I lived in that neighborhood, like I said, since the day I was moved into Moab, since 1970. And, in the house I live in now, which is famous for the shotgun, but that house actually was my parents' house that I bought from them. So, and that's right off the backside of HMK. So I haven't moved far, other than some years in college and 1 year abroad in Nevada.
You're going to have to elaborate on the shotgun quickly because we want to get to them, but because that's going to be lost on all of our listeners.
Well, it's in a famous book written by a famous man, and we'll just entice the readers with that much for now. And if you want to shed some light, you're more than welcome to, Hutch. But
that's
entertaining for the readers.
That's kind of you to mention that for those who don't know, just quickly, because it's kind of off the subject. But Ron's speaking about the novel that I published here about 5 months ago, but we'll go on from that. So obviously you went to the, obviously not a middle school, but a junior high in Moab, and then you graduated from Grand County High School. So
Yeah,
where did you
I
go to
did.
university?
Graduated from Grand County in 1988. That was interesting too. If I can just digress for a second, the uranium ran out of Moab when I was in high school, and so as a freshman, we had 158 kids, which is a large class for Grand County High School.
Yeah.
We graduated 54 out of that 158 because of the uranium market went out. Everybody left Moab. It almost became a ghost town. And that was also, unfortunately, the same time they brought OBE into the education system, outcome-based education. And a lot of my best friends and that I still associate even with today never graduated from high school. They dropped out because of OBE. So it was a tight and tough time in Moab when uranium wasn't here. But I did go. I was successful in football, so I went and walked on to Snow College, and I made the team as a walk-on. Redshirted my freshman year. Spent 2 years with Snow College. Got my AS degree, and then from there, through circumstances that we can talk about later, I did go on to SUU for 3 years, and that's where I got my BS in education, teacher education, with a major in physical education, emphasis coaching, minored in U.S. Studies and criminal justice. Graduated from there in 1993. My first job that I got was in Gabbs, Nevada, small little town, and most people never heard of.
Which is close to what?
The closest thing was Fallon for grocery shopping at 85.
Okay.
Wow. So, but it was a town of 301. It was a K-12 school. That was my first teaching assignment. I taught PE to all 12 grades. I taught U.S. Studies and U.S. History to juniors and seniors. I helped coach the football team. I was the head girls basketball coach. First time they had seen the playoffs in girls basketball in 18 years. So that was pretty special to be part of something like that. And then coached the track team for 1 year before they actually riffed the position because the gold mine shut down. So the last 4 teachers hired were riffed. They transferred me to Pahrump, Nevada. Pahrump's in the
I do know where that is.
You do know Pahrump.
Well, you go through all I know is you go to Pahrump on the way to Death Valley, past Las Vegas, turn right, go to Pahrump, and then go up, and then the back way into Death Valley. That's the reason I know that.
It's an interesting place. When they transferred me there, I went down and visited. It was 305 miles one way from Gabbs to Pahrump, same school district, Nye County. I took a look at that and I said, I don't want to raise a family in Pahrump. So they actually then, the SPED teacher left Gabbs. So I spent the summer at UNLV doing master coursework in special ed so I could be stay in Gabbs because I really enjoyed Gabbs. I didn't want to be in Pahrump in that environment there. So and then I got a phone call from the superintendent here at Grand County, said he'd like to interview me for a position. So I came back to Moab and he asked me one question. Do you enjoy Moab? And I said, yes. And he said, you're hired. So
what's up?
Came back to my alma mater was just that one question.
You moved from the small town in Nevada back to the metropolis of Moab.
That's right.
I see. So I wanted to follow up with something you said earlier, just because I'm curious about this. The uranium ran out in the late 80s, probably?
No, actually the bottom fell out in 83, 84, but the full effect actually took about 2 years to really impact Moab. And we still have a lot of uranium. In fact, there's more uranium here than in most places around the world. It's just not cost effective because
to get it.
There's so much. But we did reopen some mines a few years ago, but they couldn't compete with the world market prices. So we're back to one operating mine, which is actually closer to Blanding now than it is.
Okay. So the second part of my question is, and it's kind of personal for me because I spent, as you know, every Easter from probably 1979 till easily 2010, camping in Moab over the Easter break. And I'm wondering if the big, I want to say the mountain bike influx, did that kind of coincide like all of a sudden the uranium died, and then it came at the same time, because I asked a question because I can remember camping at Sandy Beach, and we would camp there overnight and stay there. But sometime in the late 80s, I'm trying to remember exactly, and then it was cut off. The BLM put more campgrounds along the river, and obviously it seems to me, being an outsider,
Yeah.
the tourism really picked up with the mountain bike thing kind of at the tail end of this uranium thing, and it kind of took its place as for an economy in Moab. So tell me
It did. We had to reinvent ourselves, and I don't know who you give credit to that for, but the Slick Rock Bike Trail was actually a lot of single track trails for motorcycles.
Okay.
But with the drop of uranium and the dissipation of the miners and all those fun toys, mountain bikes came in and began to take over those trails, specifically at the Slick Rock Bike Trail. And that became very popular to the point where we have 1.5 million people annually come in Moab just to mountain bike. And, you know, when we reinvented Moab, you know, and like I said, the BLM's done some work, and they continue to add more and more campgrounds up and down the river. But in reinventing ourselves, you know, we became we were the uranium capital of the world, the mountain bike capital of the world. We're the, you know, base jumping championship capital of the world, most scenic dump in the world.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, I read that in a book somewhere. The prettiest
It's
dump
just
in America.
always, you know, it's always got to be the most something as it associates to Moab. And Moab, for such a tiny little place, I mean, in the actual town, there's less than 6,000 residents. And for the entire county, and the entire county of Grand County is just as big as, I think it's Delaware or it's Vermont. It's one of those two states. Our county is just as big as that. There's only a population of 8,200 people for the entire county. So there's all this playground for slacklining to occur, base jumping. There's just repel along Wall Street, which is one of our famous places. We have roughly about 125,000 rock climbers come here every year to climb on Wall Street. And about 70% of them are actually females. And some of the best rock climbers in the world actually spend time in Moab. So, I mean, Moab is just it's an outdoor paradise. And it all started with the Slick Rock Bike Trail and mountain biking. But it's
so does the national park, does Arches National Park have restrictions on the amount of climbers that are allowed at one day, or is it just people show and the park officials don't bother them much?
You know, I can't speak directly, but I don't think they allow any climbing in the park anymore. Wall Street is actually along the River Road, along Highway 313 going down to Potash. There used to be a lot of, I mean, when I grew up, I was in Arches all the time. We'd jump off Sand Dune Arch, we'd hike all, and you know, you're restricted to any of those things now. Corona Arch, which of course became famous because of the virus,
right?
And in the park, and that's my favorite arch, Corona Arch. I hiked it 17 times. I wanted to hike it 19 times just for COVID-19, but they used to swing through that arch until we had a couple of deaths, and now you can't swing through the arch.
No, I had a former student of mine, one that was had to pass my class to graduate, and it was up until the last 2 weeks. But I remember his senior year telling me he had gone down to Corona and he had done the little swing, and it was after somebody had died like 2 weeks before that. And I asked him about it. That's crazy. So that's excellent to know. So tell me, growing up, is there any teachers, coaches, parents, bosses who inspired you, that were mentors for you, that helped you along the way?
You know, just about everybody's had an impact in my life. You know, as one of my favorite things is to always say there's a golden nugget out there, and just about everybody you encounter, you know, even the challenging people provide the golden nuggets. You know, growing up, you know, my dad coached me early on in youth sports and taught me the value of commitment. and to never quit on your team, never quit on a play, never quit on a season, never quit on a coach. And so I've never quit anything in my life. That was kind of a interesting thing. My freshman year, I played basketball, and every day the basketball coach said, "You need to quit. You need to quit. You need." And I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. And of course, the wrestling coach, Mean Gene Leonard, who is an important mentor in my life, every day is like, "Ron, are you coming to wrestling?" And I said, "No, I'm not coming to wrestling," because my dad had taught me that, and I still think that's the right thing. But boy, I sure wasted a year playing that sport of basketball. It did not suit me well. But Mean Gene, he's still alive today. He started wrestling here in Moab in 1955, and he's just a tough. I mean, this guy is just literally brute tough, and he taught me about, life is always going to be tough, but he also said, "You're tougher." And I've always tried to use that in my life, that, things are very difficult. Corona's very difficult. It's tough, but I'm tougher, and I'm going to defeat it, and so Ming Jean was important. My mom, my grandpa, they taught me about compassion and forgiveness, and if you see a job that needs to be done, do it with joy in your heart. And so, a lot of times people are like, "Why are you out picking up trash?" I'm like, "Well, nobody else is. It's a job that needs to be done, but you got to have joy in your heart. You got to be happy to be what you're doing, happy to be upright." Another coach of mine, Bill Moore, in high school, had a profound impact. He always said, "It doesn't matter, get better." So, he says, what the past is the past, and you can't change that. Just get better. So, don't wallow around. Don't flush it, was one of the things he said is in the baseball program, is if you make an error, just flush it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just flush it. So, it doesn't matter. Just do better. Just get better. In college, my college coaches at Snow College were amazing. My sophomore year, I broke my back playing college football. In practice, actually, me and the safety hit each other head on, stood each other up, and the linebacker came in and put his helmet in my back, and my thoracic region, I cracked two lumbars, and then I broke or cracked 6 transverse processes. So that kind of ended not just playing, but it kind of ended my my career. I didn't plan on going too far in football, but I wanted to join the military when I was done with football. And, with my back the way it was, the recruiter just said, you're not a candidate for us. So that was something I really wanted to do. My dad tried several times to join the military, but he had a traumatic accident when he was 18, spent 6 weeks in the hospital, and so physically he wasn't. And so I wanted to kind of carry that torch for him, but that didn't happen. But when I broke my back, if I can spend a second there, a couple of the coaches are like, get up, tough it up. And I literally crawled into the training room, and I remember trainer Dave, he said, "Ron, I think you broke your back. Let me call an ambulance for you." And I said, "You're not calling an ambulance. I'm not being carted out in a gurney or anything like that. Not going to happen." So I muscled up what I could, and I literally walked and crawled to my car and drove 15 miles to the nearest hospital. I broke my back, and I think the coaches were a little bit maybe feeling sorry, because they're like, you just got the wind knocked out of you, dude. Get up, dirt in it. And they became some of my, in not a dark time, but a difficult time in my life. That Coach Tidwell called me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come when you're healthy. The running backs coach doesn't understand the system like you do. We'd love to have," and he might have just been, being a nice guy, but I got to be a college football coach a week after breaking my back, and I got to work with the running backs, which is where I was. I got to travel with the team. I got to be there on game day and help the program out. And so that tragedy actually turned into something good. Coach Cafaro was an amazing guy. Coach Uparesa, Coach Canales. Those guys at Snow College when I was there were they were amazing, and they had a lot of love in their, a lot of love for me, and gave me an opportunity and guided me to SUU and said, if you really want to coach, go to SUU. And while I was there, met Dr. Lunt, who had another profound impact. I mean,
Sure.
Rich Barton helped create a class based on his knowledge, and he taught me so much. But the one thing I'll always remember is, don't bring me problems, bring me answers. And
the answers.
And that's what, that's one thing I try to impart on my coaches all the time, is as they work with kids and as they work with me, is let's not talk about problems. Let's solve these things. Let's have answers and solutions. Let's not whine and complain about things. And so, that's been a very touching experience. Tom Brown has been amazing. Tom Brown was my principal. In fact, I just talked to him yesterday for an hour. He's a special guy in my life too. When my father passed away, Tom was there to help me through that. And he's become kind of a father figure to me. And so I still stay connected to Tom. And like I said, there's just, it's the mentors. I mean, just being on the state ADAC since I think 2000, when you guys brought me in. And I mean, Gordon Hinckley, Dave Boyack, Everett Calapato, Dick Hill, Paul Dart, Dan Cowan. I love Dan Cowan. Those guys, Kendra Tomsick, John Dow, really have been some good mentors as athletic directors for me. Mike Baer, Jamie Sheets, Mike Hunter, Missy Stewart and Missy McKay Whiters on the scholarship committee, Danny Lewis. I mean, it's just every opportunity you interact with these people, you're always trying to take away a golden nugget, But the ADs that really have done wonders for me from start to finish. And while I'm not finished, I feel like I'm always beginning. But,
yeah.
Bud Campbell and Ren were amazing in helping me out. And, I miss Bud. I still get to talk to Ren, but the immeasurable three, as I call them, and you haven't really heard this, but it's close to my heart. But Craig Gladwell, Big Rich Barton, and you, Mark, you're the immeasurables. You guys, I can never repay you for the advice and the opportunity to do good. It's really touching, and I'll never be able to repay you guys for what you've done. But you guys and your mentoring is, there's no limit to what you guys have done for not just me, but I know for so many other athletic directors. You guys are the kings.
Well, thank you, and that's well said with that about all the people that have affected your life, and thank you for that. So, since you talked about athletic administration and all the people that how has that changed since you first became the athletic director at Grand County in your first year to now? What's the biggest change that you've seen, or is the change because you've gotten more involved, you've become certified, and then it allowed you to make a change for the positive? Is that part of the reason for the change, or is it just, as we all know, everybody keeps stacking more and more stuff upon the AD's plate every year?
That's a great question, Hutch. Some parts of this job have completely changed, and as I look back to 20, 21 years ago, whatever it was, I don't really pay attention to that. It's hard to remember the first couple of years because they were such a blur. But this job today, like I said, I mean, they're school boards, the High School Activities Association, other associations, COVID. I mean, it's almost insurmountable the way the job has changed. And, and I know, 20, 30 years ago, it was just, I guess we need an AD. Let's make a coach the AD. And it was just kind of a name only for a long time. And many ADs really didn't do anything different than what was before. I'd have to say it was probably somewhere around the mid 80s that maybe things started to change a little bit. And it's been an uphill battle. I mean, for credibility's sake, you know, as well as I do, I mean, they put so much on you because they think you can do everything. You're a miracle worker. And frankly, we are miracle workers considering what they put on our plate. You know, the technology and the advances in that, and, you know, and dealing with sportsmanship issues and creating sportsmanship programs, and the social issues that we have today, you know, are falling on ADs. You know, there's programs out there and people are wanting, you know, ADs to teach men how to be men and how to be proper with women. And I mean, the list goes on and on that never existed before for athletic directors. I mean, the most an athletic director might have done was make sure the officials showed up, but you know, you've got, you know, auditor requires this, and you know, and you're juggling schedules, and it really has changed. But I also think, though, that relationships within the job have never changed. I mean, they are the foundation of what you do. If you truly want to be a good athletic director, if you value your vision and your mission and your purpose, you've got to have relationships, and those don't come easy anymore. I mean, you know, 30, 40 years ago, like I said, you know, when I was 5 years old, I mean, yes, sir, I will never miss class again. I'll never skip out on my job again. But I mean, those types of things don't exist today like they did, you know, so long ago. But the relationships, you have to learn how to orchestrate them, because people are more complex now. And I think social media has made us more complex, you know, and you're dealing with kids, and you're dealing with young coaches that are so heavily ingrained with social media all the time. And, you know, and you know, that you've got to be more than just, you know, do I have officials? Do I have a schedule? Do I have buses? I mean, you've got to be the counselor. You've got to be the psychologist. You've really got to do things the right way, and you've got to orchestrate all of this. And it still comes down to relationships. I mean, to me, if you don't have good relationships, I don't care what your vision is. I don't care your mission or your purpose. If you can't have relationships with people, if you can't trust people, and you can't work with them and allow them to grow, and they can't trust you, you're going to really struggle in the profession. So, you know, regardless of what they throw on your plate, you know, whether they add additional stuff or not, you've got to be able to develop relationships. And it's not hard, but it is complicated.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Thank you for sharing that. And kind of along that, so share with our Utah listeners and those that may tune in nationally. So you're from Moab, you've come back to Moab, you become the AD, and you're one of the past presidents of our association, and of course now the assistant executive director. So how take us on a quick path of how did you get involved in UIAAA? What's your earliest memory of maybe your first or second conference, or what made the difference, or what made you decide, and when did things start clicking for
you? All that. I became the athletic director in '99. In 2000, I attended my first conference in the spring of 2000 with the UIAAA, and all I can remember was from that first conference is there was a plethora of wonderful information, but I remember you, Bud Campbell, and Rich Barton sitting down with me and saying, Ron, you know, you guys had some faith in me. Let's put it that way. As a first year AD, you guys put some faith into me, and you said, we think you can do some good things, and we'd like you to be part of our team. And next thing I know, I'm on the ADAC. I don't know exactly if that was 2000, the fall of 2000, or if it came in 2001. I don't really remember. Like I said, I don't track dates, because for me, it's always about the experiences and not so much the timeline. But I mean, you guys just took me right under your wing, and you saw something in me must have made some sort of impression. I mean, I knew Rich from down at SUU. You know, he was playing basketball. We were in some classes together, but you know, it's been such a wonderful experience, Hutch, and I'm still learning. This is, you know, every day I feel like there's a new opportunity. I don't feel like I'm at the end of anything. I'm always feeling like it's just begun. And you know, I joke often all the time with you guys that the only reason you keep me around is because of my Region Door Prize. You know, the door
But
prize.
it is a great Region Door Prize, since you brought that up.
That's
But
why
obviously,
I've been kept around, but I've never left ADAC or the board since joining in 2000 or 2001, whatever year that actually was. And it's just, I'm always so grateful to just have the opportunity to work with some amazing people and to serve not only the state, but to bring that information back and those nuggets from the national conferences or the state conferences, and share that with my coaches, share it with my administrators, share it with my community that there's a better way, and we always need to be evaluating and getting better. You know, the time I had on the board and now I'm back on the board is just, it's an amazing experience. And the things that I've been able to do at the national level over the last, 3 to 5 years now. I mean, the national conferences are amazing, but now being part of the national faculty for LTC 501 and being on that committee, the Hall of Fame committee, I mean, what an honor, what an experience to read these applications and to talk about these great athletic directors that served their communities, that served the national interscholastic, you know, the NIAAA. Is just, I mean, it's heartwarming and it makes you feel really good about this association and you know, the fact that we're an accredited association now that doesn't exist anywhere outside of schools, you know, that accredited is just so amazing for the NIAAA and to have the strategic plans that they put in place and we put in our own strategic plans. I mean, Hutch, you've done a tremendous job mirroring or mimicking what the NIAAA does, that it's really hard to almost separate our association from the national association, because everything we do is a reflection of that, and that's what it should be. I mean, that really shows some value and some commitment and honor and integrity and a lot of respect for what we do and what we do at the national level, and to have those experiences at the national level is just, you can't put them into words, but you know, internally and extrinsically the value that provides, and for you guys to sit there at that, I can't even remember what it was at that time. It's what, the Red Lion or something now, but there's George, and to sit down with me and to provide a pathway for me to be a part of this association and then also to be part of the national association. There's no value to it, and I can never repay the opportunities except do what I can to project that message and to do the things that we know are right for education-based athletics.
Well, thank you. Great answers, great thoughts on that. And if I heard you correctly, which I'm sure I did, is you're saying to maybe that first or second year AD out there in Utah, hopefully maybe listen to this podcast. Here's your opportunity.
Absolutely.
Get your name out there and start doing some things. That's great. So what's the favorite part of your job?
You know, the favorite part of my job, that's a good question. You know, I don't think you can have a favorite part of your job, actually. You know, if you have a favorite thing, what you're always looking for it, right? Or you're expecting to happen, or you're looking for ways to create that favorite thing. And you know, Geez, I think it's just the experience. I think the best part of the job is the chance to impact the future in a positive way through education-based athletics. I mean, giving kids a chance through sports and activities and even clubs. I mean, you give them that civic-minded understanding, the idea to reach out across the aisle, if you will, and to connect. The best things happen when you always least expect it, I think, and
Sure.
that makes them enjoyable. And I think if you're doing things right, you're going to find those teachable moments. You're going to see coaches with those teachable moments. You'll even see kids interacting in teachable moments if you're doing things and you have that vision, that mission, and those purpose statements. And I think the best part of the job is just when you see those wonderful things happen when you least expect it.
Yeah, thank you. So let me go to a semi-serious question before we wrap things up here.
Okay.
Now, and I want to phrase this properly. Now, let's go back. Obviously, the COVID hit, and then we had all those, the Black Lives Matter, the riots in the streets, with at least up in Salt Lake. And now I understand Moab is obviously not the metropolitan area, and obviously Moab is the big city in Grand County. But I'd be interested to know, because obviously your population may not be as diverse as in a larger city such as Salt Lake, and of course Salt Lake's not certainly diverse as a place like LA or New York. So did those issues come down to Moab later in the spring after the COVID hit? Was there an awareness there? Or?
There is a very heightened awareness in Moab, and I think, in some ways Moab is so much better off than other rural communities in Utah. In other ways, we're maybe not as well off. Moab struggles. The cost of living is so high. Our intergenerational poverty is through the roof, and it's very hard to live in Moab. But out of that, Moab to me, and this is what, Moab is a cosmopolitan in a small town. I mean,
okay,
can't believe the diversity that exists in Moab. Moab is not your typical Utah rural community. I mean, if you go to Monticello, they're 92% LDS. If you go down to San Juan, they're 94% LDS. You come to Moab, we're 26% LDS. You won't find that low of a level, because Moab's different. I mean, we have this influence politically, socially, from all parts of the United States. We have lawyers that have left New York City and moved to Moab. We have just this diversity, and you see, the Black Lives Matter. You saw those things happen in Salt Lake. They came to Moab too, and they actually had the second largest protest and awareness in the state of Utah outside of Salt Lake City, and it was done peacefully, and it was done through good agreements between people, and we have pride parades in Moab. You won't see a pride parade anywhere else in rural Utah outside of Moab. It's been going on for over 10 years here. Moab is different. Moab is not your typical rural Utah town. And so we have a lot of tolerance. We have a lot of diversity that most people don't realize. And that diversity may not be your ethnic background. That diversity might just be your way of thinking. Sure. And so, I mean, we're ahead of the game as opposed to, I think, most rural Utah towns. But we also struggle in other areas as well, because most of our kids are working. I mean, about 25% of our student body participates in a sport, because most of them, they can get a job for $15 an hour, and it's a lot easier to have that $15 an hour job than it is to, bust your hump in practices. And that's not to say that it's bad, but we're just different. We're not the typical rural Utah community.
Well, thank you for that answer. And that's a great answer, and will help open up some eyes to some people that are certainly not as familiar with Moab as you are, and maybe me as who's a frequent visitor. Let's try to wrap this up. So let's say
Okay.
there's a brand new athletic director, maybe first, second, or third year, and you as a veteran now, you want to give them two things that are going to help them with their job. I know some people do top 3, top 4. I'm going to limit you just to two. Two quick things that you're going to say, the new AD, this is what you need to do. It's going to help you.
Two. One, be in the present.
Okay.
You can't change the past. You can't control other people, but you can still be in the present. You can't change the future, predict the future. COVID's taught us that. So just present. Slow things down, live in the present. You can't do what the former AD was doing. Don't try to live up to the former AD. Be in the present. And use your vision, use your mission. If you've got something that the school has, can you adjust it? Can you make it fit to you? Do you want to scrap it? But be in the present. That's how you determine your legacy. And I think it's important that a young athletic director think about that. I didn't think about that until probably 10 years in. Well, what's my legacy going to be?
Sure.
If you're in the present, you start to think about those things that are going to guide and shape the future, not control the future, but guide and shape the future. You're going to be a lot better off. And don't go it alone.
There you go.
That's big. I didn't go it alone. I felt like at times I had to go it alone, but I had people like you and Big Rich and Bud and Ren and those guys. But you don't have to go it alone. In sports, when you're coaching, you don't share anything with anybody. But as an athletic director, you share everything. Your playbook is open to anybody that wants to read it. And I think young ADs need to know that. They don't need to go it alone. We've been down many of those roads, and we've got, we've got pamphlets, we've got handbooks, we've got literature, we've got our experiences to get them through it. So don't go it alone. And at the end of the day, your family is your family. Take care.
What a great insight, and what a great, I couldn't agree with that more about what you said, because the coaching fraternity is tight, but the athletic director fraternity is just a little different. So we're just about out of time. So let me ask you this, and I obviously borrowed this question from another interviewer. What question did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
Hutch, I don't think there's anything I don't think there's anything specific or I really don't. I think it really comes down to the relationships and the trust that you have and that you realize, there's people around you to help you. There's a support network that's amazing. I don't think, at the end of the day, as humans, we want to be connected. And when we can connect through our work and we can share those experiences and build relationships, there's nothing that we haven't touched upon that I don't think is important for athletic directors other than
and that's a great comment. And of course, that's one of the toughest things about COVID is that, we can do Zoom, and Zoom's become the latest thing, but there's nothing like that in-person interaction type of thing. Well, we're out of time for this session of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our guest was Ronald Dolphin, Assistant Executive Director of the UIAAA and Athletic Director at Grand County High School. Thanks again, Ron, for being here and sharing your expertise with us. And we'll look forward to all of our listeners next time on the UIAAA Connection.